Have you ever wondered how something you really enjoyed came to be? Well, that's the story of tonight's 3 whiskeys as we dive into an origin series in itself. Stay tuned.
Simple whiskey, Cyncere. Here to keep it 100. What's the ABV? Keep it simple. Simple whiskey. Be sweeter.
Welcome to the Simple Whiskey Show. I'm Cyncere, and tonight we're definitely keeping it simple compared to last week. We only have 3 whiskeys here instead of 6. Hopefully we can get through this one and everybody can just enjoy some whiskey and have a good time. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your notification bells to stay up to date on all things simple whiskey. Let's get started. From the Bardstown Bourbon Company, we're comparing the entire Origin Series. I know earlier this week I did one on the rye, but tonight will be the first time that in a blind I will mix traditional bourbons with rye, and we'll see if this is something that in the future makes sense to do again, or if it's one of those that it just is way out in left field, so I'll keep the ryes with the ryes and the bourbons with the bourbons. Either way, we're gonna have fun tonight, so let's jump right in. As I've done in the past, tonight we're gonna nose, sip, eliminate until we have one clear winner. I always like to say there are no participation trophies in my house. Somebody must win. No one gets a runner-up. So tonight we have 3 great whiskeys from Bardstown Bourbon Company. Of course, we got the OG Origin Series, one of my favorite sub 100 proof sippers. 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley, $44.99 a bottle, worth it every time. We also have the Big Brother Wheated Bottled and Bond version of the Origin Series, one that I recently picked up and have enjoyed a little bit since I got it. But again, this was the one that I went to initially. This was one of the first ones I had. This one has now crept up to do what bigger brothers do and just kind of push him off to the wayside. Last but not least, we have the redheaded stepchild of the family, the rye spice and everything nice. Littlest brother, littler brother, correct me in the grammar in the comments. Either way, let's get to sipping. All right, so I've mixed these up quite a few times throughout the last couple hours, just coming up and down from upstairs. I just mix them a few more times. At the end, there's going to be a clear winner, and I'll reveal it. As I go through sipping, I'll try to remember to put the names down here so you know in advance what I'm sipping on and what gets eliminated. So that way, if you don't feel like watching the whole video, don't. I prefer you do, but you know, it is what it is. So let's go. On the nose on A. Ooh. I get a very rich bourbon note up front, like a just like a smooth oak, kind of a cocoa, like a peach jam even, as you get a little deeper. Let's give it a sip. So in this one, that peach jam comes through a lot in the flavor. It's extremely sweet. And then it lends to like a, almost like a toffee. I know I got a little bit of cocoa on the nose. I don't get any of that on the flavor. And again, all of these are, I think, 96 to 100 proof. So not over the top proofy, but definitely not gold by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a really good one. Let's take a crack at B. Oh, I immediately get a little bit of cherry, hint of mint. Yeah, primarily a small amount of cherry, large amount of mint. Let's give it a taste. Very bright up front. Something about this really just screams fruit when it first hits the palate, but then it transitions into like a subtle cinnamon. If I had to guess, this is probably the rye, just because I do recall getting similar notes earlier in the week when I had this one. If this is the rye, I will say it does strike me a lot It fares a little better tonight than it did on its own as the first sip of the night in the last video. But who knows? I could be totally wrong, and at the end you're like, oh, sorry, that's the bottle and bond. Try again. Let's try C. I get like almost like an orange. A little bit of orange, a little bit of a floral note. Very oaky on the finish. Let's give it a sip. So I regret guessing on B because I get a lot of cinnamon on this one. But I also get a little bit of vanilla. And the finish on this one lingers a little bit more than A, but equally as B. And with the amount of cinnamon I get on this, either of these could now be the rye. So if I had to eliminate one, my palate is telling me that B is out. All right, so we're down to A and C. Let's dive right back in there. Oh yeah, it's definitely a peach nose. It has like a sweet cream. I think earlier I said lighter oak, maybe a bit of cocoa. I don't get the cocoa. The lingering note is a little bit of oak, but nowhere near as much as I get the very sweet peaches and cream. Let's give it a sip. Still very fruity, very peachy. I still get a little bit of that toffee. Nowhere near as deep or dark as the Heath bar in terms of toffee. But I'm thinking like a lighter, more airy, like if you had whipped cream with toffee flavor and you whipped it up and it was nice, light, and airy. I know no one would ever do that, but I'm trying to articulate better some of the taste and the profiles that I get on these whiskeys just so you can get a better understanding as to what I get on them. But it's definitely a very, very light toffee mixed with that deeper, smoother peach note, both on the nose, both on the palate. So that was A. Let's give C another whirl. Can't help but think like orange. Like this one, I know that I pared down to peach, but it's very, some sort of a fruit note that I can't quite put my finger on. And the best, closest nose and taste to it is like a very sweet peach. This one, on the other hand, is very orangey. And I don't mean like George Dickel, and I don't mean like orange peel. I mean, think the first bite into an orange and you get all that juice in your mouth. You know what I mean? Just first bite of an orange. Let's leave it at that. I'll probably edit out the beginning of this. Let's give it a sip. See, throughout the mid palate, the tongue almost tingles from the cinnamony note that I get on this. But then as it slowly goes down, you get a lot more of that vanilla. You get a little bit more of that oak. Almost even a baking spice. I think I have a winner. All right, so the first one eliminated was B. I had initially guessed that this was the rye. Then I got a little bit confused as I thought that C may be the rye. So let's see. B is rye spice and everything nice. Overall, it wasn't bad. I do think that it fared better today than it did the other evening when I had it as a standalone. And I know tonight I had A first, then I had B. So maybe it's one that if you're going to have a sip of the Bardstown Origin Series rye, maybe do a warm-up sip of your Benchmark 8, your Buffalo Trace, or some like 80 to 90 proofer to just get warmed up a little bit, to then open this one up, as opposed to trying to open it up with water or trying to just take this one on head first, especially if you're not a traditional rye sipper. Again, I like this one. I just don't think that it's a $70 bottle in terms of how it hits my palate. Tonight's winner came down to A and C. The one that I chose to eliminate in the second round is, just kidding, C. C is the runner-up, and that is my A1 from day one when it comes to Origin Series Bardstown bourbons. So the OG white label Bardstown is the runner-up. As you can see, the bottle's about here in terms of how much is left. I think I bought this early last summer, so I do sip on this one quite frequently. It isn't one that I usually jump for joy to tell people, hey, let's try this one, when I get someone down here that hasn't had a whole slew of different whiskeys. But I will say that this is still one that very easy sipper, very unique notes with some of the floral notes you get, as well as that orange, juicy taste that I couldn't quite appropriately articulate outside of being a high school teenage boy. But this is one that I'll continue to sip. I will continue to buy this one. It is readily available here where I'm at, so once this bottle gets a little bit further down, I'll put the rest into a sample size bottle and go get me a fresh one. And the winner was the Bottled in Bond. And this one, it's just very complex. I know I said this one was complex on the nose and the flavor, and I think that the cinnamon notes on this one is what A, gave it a little bit more complexity than this one, but B, was a little more off-putting to me because it did give me that stronger rye feel. And I know, well, and you know why? This one actually, they sub out the rye for the wheat. And then this one does have, I think, 30-some% rye in the mash bill, so that makes total sense now as I think logically and keep it simple. But this one was my favorite of the three tonight. And I don't know if that fruit note is peach or not, but it's definitely some sort of a fruit. It definitely gives me sweeter peaches and cream vibes. So I'll continue to rock with it and claim that it's peach until I can expand my palate a little bit more and get a better understanding as to what exactly that fruit note is. When I cook a lot of meats and things of that nature. So the fruits, my palate isn't quite as up to snuff when it comes to figuring out what some of these fruits are. All right, well, hopefully you liked tonight's blind. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me any feedback. Let me know if any of these three are some that are on your favorite list or some that are not so appealing to you. In addition to that, if you like this type of content, don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe, turn on your notification bells, and stay up to date on all things Simple Whiskey. As we continue down this journey in the new year, just remember to share your pours with those you love. Remember that whiskey is meant to bring folks together, not tear people apart. So drink responsibly and keep it simple. Cheers.